Ever wondered how we got here? From scattered tribes to a globally connected civilization of billions? We're going to try and tell that entire story, from the very beginning to right now, in just 10 minutes. Our story starts in Africa, around 200,000 years ago, with the emergence of Homo sapiens. We weren't alone, but we were adaptable. For tens of thousands of years, we lived as hunter-gatherers, spreading slowly across the continents. We followed the herds, learned the seasons, and painted our stories on cave walls. We crossed land bridges to Asia, braved the ice to reach Europe, and built boats to journey to Australia. By about 15,000 years ago, humanity had populated every habitable continent on Earth. It was a life lived in small, mobile groups, a life dictated by nature. But everything was about to change. Around 10,000 BCE, in a region called the Fertile Crescent, a revolution began. We call it the Agricultural Revolution. Instead of chasing food, people started to grow it. They domesticated plants like wheat and barley and animals like sheep and goats. This was a game changer. For the first time, we could create a surplus of food, which meant not everyone had to be a farmer. People could stay in one place, leading to the first villages, then towns, and eventually cities. With settled life came new inventions: pottery for storage, the wheel for transport, and writing to keep track of it all. This new way of life laid the foundation for civilization. With agriculture came complexity. Around 3000 BCE, the world's first great civilizations emerged in river valleys. In Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Sumerians built incredible cities like Ur and Uruk. They gave us cuneiform, the first written language, and legal codes like the Code of Hammurabi. At the same time, along the Nile River, ancient Egypt rose to prominence. The pharaohs, seen as gods on earth, commissioned the construction of the pyramids, monuments to their power and belief in the afterlife. Over in the Indus Valley, cities like Mohenjo-Daro showcased incredible urban planning with sophisticated water systems. And in China, the Shang dynasty flourished along the Yellow River, mastering bronze casting and developing their own system of writing. These ancient civilizations became hubs of trade, culture, and power, creating empires that would last for centuries. The period from roughly 500 BCE to 500 CE is often called the Classical Age. This was an era of extraordinary intellectual and cultural achievement. In Greece, thinkers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle laid the foundations of Western philosophy. The concept of democracy was born in Athens, and Greek art and architecture set standards of beauty that we still admire today. The Greeks were eventually conquered by a rising power from Italy, Rome. The Roman Republic, and later the Roman Empire, became a master of engineering and law, building roads, aqueducts, and legal systems that unified a vast territory stretching from Britain to the Middle East. Meanwhile, in India, the Mauryan and Gupta empires ushered in a golden age of science, mathematics, inventing the concept of zero, and art. In China, the Han Dynasty established a stable, prosperous society, creating the Silk Road, a network of trade routes that connected the East and West for the first time, allowing goods, ideas, and cultures to travel thousands of miles. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire around 476 CE, Europe entered what is known as the Middle Ages. It was a time of fragmentation but also of new beginnings. The Christian Church became a central unifying force, and feudalism emerged as the dominant social and political system. In the East, the Byzantine Empire, the continuation of the Roman Empire, thrived for another 1,000 years. But the most dynamic force of this era came from the Arabian Peninsula. In the 7th century, the rise of Islam led to the creation of a vast Islamic caliphate. This Islamic Golden Age was a period of incredible scientific, mathematical, and medical advancement. Scholars in cities like Baghdad and Cordoba preserved and built upon the knowledge of the ancient Greeks and Romans, while also making their own groundbreaking discoveries in algebra, optics, and medicine. At the same time, great empires were flourishing elsewhere, from the Tang and Song dynasties in China to the powerful Ghana and Mali empires in West Africa. The late Middle Ages saw Europe begin to reawaken. The Crusades, while a series of brutal conflicts, reconnected Europe with the knowledge and trade of the East. Then, in the mid-14th century, disaster struck. The Black Death, a devastating plague, swept across Asia and Europe, wiping out up to a third of the population. This catastrophe fundamentally reshaped society, weakening the old feudal order and paving the way for change. In Italy, a new spirit of inquiry and creativity began to blossom. This was the Renaissance, a rebirth of classical art, science, and humanism. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo created masterpieces, while thinkers and explorers began to question old assumptions. The invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg around 1440 allowed these new ideas to spread like wildfire, fueling an era of unprecedented discovery. Driven by this new spirit and a desire for the riches of the East, European explorers set sail. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, sailing for Spain, landed in the Americas, mistakenly believing he had reached Asia. This marked the beginning of the Age of Exploration and the Columbian Exchange, the vast transfer of plants, animals, diseases, technologies, and ideas between the Old World and the New. While it led to new foods and wealth for Europe, it had devastating consequences for the indigenous populations of the Americas. This era also saw the Protestant Reformation, a religious movement that split the Christian church and led to centuries of conflict, but also challenged traditional authority and emphasized individual conscience. Scientific inquiry exploded during the scientific revolution, with figures like Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton revealing a universe governed by natural laws, forever changing our understanding of our place in the cosmos. The 18th and 19th centuries were defined by revolution. The Enlightenment championed reason, liberty, and individual rights, inspiring the American and French revolutions, which overthrew monarchies and established new forms of government based on the will of the people. At the same time, another, quieter revolution was beginning in Britain, the Industrial Revolution. The invention of the steam engine and the rise of the factory system transformed production, moving societies from agrarian to industrial. People flocked to cities for work, leading to massive social changes, new social classes, and immense wealth, but also difficult living and working conditions. This industrial power fueled a new wave of European imperialism as nations competed to build vast global empires, leading to the colonization of large parts of Africa and Asia. The 20th century began with immense optimism, but quickly descended into the most destructive period in human history. Imperial rivalries, nationalism, and complex alliances erupted into World War I. A brutal conflict that shattered empires and introduced the horrors of modern warfare. The economic turmoil that followed helped give rise to totalitarian ideologies, leading to World War II, a global conflict even more devastating than the first, marked by the Holocaust and culminating in the use of atomic weapons. In the aftermath, the world was divided into two camps, led by the United States and the Soviet Union, kicking off the Cold War, a decades-long ideological struggle that brought the world to the brink of nuclear annihilation. Yet this period also saw positive change, as colonial empires dismantled and dozens of new nations gained independence. The United Nations was formed to promote peace and international cooperation. And that brings us to our time. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the collapse of the Soviet Union ended the Cold War, ushering in an era of globalization. The digital revolution, driven by the personal computer and the internet, has connected the world in ways previously unimaginable. Information, money, and culture now flow across the globe in an instant. We've made incredible progress in science and medicine, extending lifespans and peering into the secrets of the universe. Yet we face immense challenges: climate change, economic inequality, and political instability. The next chapter is still unwritten, and it's up to all of us to write it. If you found this journey fascinating, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the past,